All right, guys, we're going to jump into independent, dependent variables. All right, how many of you like going shopping? Yes, you like you. Oh, I see a lot of hands going up. Okay, you love shopping. Okay, I like going to what's the best gas station around? Race 7-Eleven, Bucky's. I'm all about Bucky's. I love it. What's the best thing at Bucky's? The, the restrooms are not bad. Okay, the restrooms are good. What else? The brisket sandwiches. Okay, you guys ever had those? What is it? The Philly cheesesteak burritos. So good. Okay, those things. Oh my gosh, those things are so good. Philly cheesesteak burritos. You got to get one of those. But here's why I'm telling you this: independent, dependent variables. Okay, so that's what we're going to start talking about today. Oh, I need to click on it. Sorry. Okay, let's say I go to Bucky's. Let's say I go into Bucky's. Okay, and I want to spend a certain amount of money. Yes, I want to spend a certain amount of money. How do I determine how much money I'm spending? Adding it up, but based on what? The price. Okay, so let's say I have I go in there. They got the big row of Cokes. You guys know what I'm talking about? You can get the soda. So you go in. You're going to order a soda. You're going to. What's the first thing you need to decide when you walk in there? Which cup you're going to get. Which cup you're going to get. Okay. So as you guys decide to get a cup, what happens? What happens with the different cups? The price changes. So basically, the cup that you chooses determines how much money you're going to spend. Would you agree? It's the same thing at Walmart. It's the same thing. It could be anything. If you want to replace windows in your house or windows of your car or whatever, the type of window is going to determine how much money you spend. Would you agree? I was looking at trucks this morning. I'm looking at buying a new truck. It's not probably not going to happen. But these things are like stupid. But the amount of features that it has and the number of years or whatever else, I can determine what year truck I buy, and based on that, it's going to do what? Cost more money, the price is going to fluctuate, okay? Independent, dependent variables. That's the way that it works. Independent is what you choose, okay? Dependent is what happens as a result, okay? So let's talk about a few things, okay? So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about independent, dependent variables. So let's talk about some differences. You can put these on the back of your notes or on the bottom. It doesn't really matter, but I want you to write this down, okay? A variable whose value depends on another one. That's your dependent variable, okay? If it depends on something else, that is dependent. Okay, what is independent? Like when you're talking about being people, what does independent mean? You're by yourself. You guys cannot wait. You're now in high school. You can't wait to grow up, graduate, and get out the door because you want to be, what's the word? Independent. Everybody's cool with that until you got to start paying your own bills. Like then it's not cool. Okay. Now, dependent is something that depends on somebody else. My daughter is a dependent of me, both of my daughters. Why? Because they're underage, okay? And I get to list them on my taxes as dependent. In other words, I am tasked with taking care of my kids. Yes? That's part of being a parent. They are dependents. That's actually what it's listed as on your taxes. Why? Because they rely on me, especially as a small child. Small child, what do they do with their parents? They rely or depend on them. Okay, dependent. It relies on something else. A variable that does not depend on another variable is called independent. Independent means you can kind of do whatever you. I'm 18 years old. I can do what I want. Okay, that's exactly right. Okay, my daughter. Funny story. My daughter just turned 18. Okay, she's in Oklahoma City. She just turned 18. The other night, I was up there. I get a phone call. I'm laying in bed. I'm about to fall asleep. It's about 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. Um, my phone keeps ringing. I'm like, what in the world? My phone's buzzing. So my daughter, like I said, is 18 years old. Keep that in mind. What is 18 years old means you are officially what? An adult. You're independent, right? I look over, the first thing I see, I grab my phone, Oklahoma City Police Department. Like, dang, you just turned 18. Like, I thought something bad. She'd lost her phone. So the police officers were trying to help her find it, and I had Life 360, so they were trying to track down where her phone. She was riding those scooters around Bricktown. Anybody been to OklahomaIty? She was riding scooters around Bricktown, and she just dropped her phone. Like, oh, so I was able to help her find it. So, but man, it freaked me out because she's she's independent now because she's 18 years old. She's out of high school. She's getting ready to go off to college and start a career and do all that stuff. And the first phone call I get, at 1 o'clock in the morning says Oklahoma City Police Department. I thought she was in trouble, but luckily she wasn't. Okay, independent. Let's go back to the Buc-ee's thing. When you walk into Buc-ee's, you choose a cup. That is independent. Nobody is forcing you to choose that cup. Okay, you do have to pay the price. The price is set. You don't get to determine the price. You get to determine which cup you choose. You get to determine which brisket sandwich you decide to eat. Yes, that's independent. You can choose just to go to the bathroom and leave. What fun is that? I mean, you're in Buc-ee's. You might as well buy something. Okay, you can get one of those cast iron skillets that nobody needs, but hey, they sure do look cool. Okay, but anyway, that's independent. When you walk to the register, everything that you put down on the register, when they scan it out, that is the price depends on what you put down. Okay, does everybody understand independent, dependent variables? Which one can you change? Independent. Which one can you not change? Dependent. That is not up to you. Okay, that is not up to you. All right, so here we go. Let's talk about independent. Circle the statement below that. You don't have to write this down, but let's talk through it. How far I can drive depends on the amount of fuel left in my car's tank, or the amount of fuel in my tank depends on how far I can drive. Which one depends on the other one? Now, let's do it again. How far I can drive depends on how much gas I have in my car. Okay. Does that one seem okay? That one seems legit, kind of okay. Think about it. How far I can drive depends on how much gas is in my car. Does that sound right? If I don't have any gas in my car, am I going to get very far? No, I'm not. The amount of fuel left in my car depends on how far I can drive. No, it kind of seems backwards, doesn't it? You see what I'm saying? Okay, fuel comes first, the distance comes second. That's the way I kind of look at it. Independent comes first, the outcome comes second. Okay, input, output. We'll talk more about input, output when we get to domain and range. All right, here we go. All right, we've already talked about that. Dependent variables. We've already kind of talked about that, right? All right, let's go to another one. You don't have to write down this whole thing. You do not have to write down this whole thing. We're about to get started with our notes, okay? Or we're about to get going with our activity. The independent variable is always graphed on the x-axis, so write this down. Independent is x. Here's how I would do it. Independent equals x. Independent is x. That is your input. Think about it. X. You get to change. When I go to the gas station, I get to determine how much gas I put in my car. Agreed? I can put $10 in, or I can just fill that sucker up. I get to determine how much gas is in it. Yes? Input. I determine. What's the result of the amount of gas that I put in my truck? How far I'm going to get. That's the output. I keep saying the same thing over and over again, but I want you to understand that. Every input has what? An output. Okay, we'll get to that later too. That's more domain and range, but it's good to know now. Input, output, independent, dependent variables. Okay, so if the independent is the x, what is the y? Dependent is y. Dependent is y. Dependent is y. So here's how I would label it. Go ahead and draw this. Just a real quick, make like a big L on your sheet somewhere. Just make a big L. All right, so what was the two things we were just talking about? Fuel and what? How far you can drive, right? So which one would be on the x-axis? Now, this is x down here. You guys should know this by now, but let's talk about it. There's x. This is y. Okay? Which one determines the other? What is x? What is independent on the situation we were just talking about? How much fuel? Okay? So gasoline, amount of gas. So let's put amount of gas. The amount of gas is your independent variable. And what is the result? The distance you can drive. When you do these charts, by the way, always label what you have. Always label what each side is, okay? Because if you just do like a chart, how do we know what it is? Okay, so how would this look? How would this look? If I have 0 amount of gas, how far am I going to get? 0. So let's say I have like 1 gallon. I'm going to get a little further, right? If I have like 2 gallons, I'm going to go a little further. So what's it going to look like? Show me with your hands. I see a lot of people. Yeah, I see everybody doing the exact same thing. It's basically going to start here, and it's going to do what? Just go up. So here we go. Here's your graph. Bang. And that is linear because it's a direct relation. The more gas you have, the farther you're, whoa, I'm clicking. The more gas you have, the farther you're going to be able to drive. Agreed? All right, here we go. Let's jump back to all right, let's go to this worksheet. Go to the front. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking. Okay, we're going to go through this pretty quick. The original statement, I know this is kind of hard to see for those of you watching the video. That's fine. I'm going to read it to you. Hopefully you can see it. This is on Canvas if you want to see the worksheet, okay, for those of you that have access to it. All right, here we go. The original statement. Oil and natural gas. This is on your worksheet, so just follow along with me. Oil and natural gas is a major part of Oklahoma's economy. Oil and natural gas producers tend to pump more oil when prices are higher and less when prices are lower. Okay? Now, my depend statement. Which one depends on the other one? Okay? Does the price depend on the fuel, or does the amount that they pump depend on how much the gas costs? Okay? So the depend statement, listen, let's talk about it again. Oil and natural gas producers, they pump more when the prices are higher, and they pump less when the prices are lower. Okay, listen. So what's the outcome? What are they talking about? What are they doing? They're pumping oil, they're pumping resources. Okay, so there's my depend statement. So here's how this works. Okay, so oil and natural gas pump. The amount, okay, how much oil is pumped? Okay, how much oil is pumped depends on the oil, depends on the what? The price. The oil depends on the price. So oil would be down here. The price is here. Oh, sorry, I had that backwards. Price, oil. Okay, and as it goes up, there we go. That's how we're doing this, okay? So we're trying to determine independent and dependent variables of each one. So here we go. Drum Ride Senior Class is planning an overnight trip to Six Flags, which will require a hotel room, okay? You're going to have to get hotels. The more students who go on the trip, the more what? Hotels you're going to need. With your neighbor, with the person next to you, I want you to talk about which one is independent, which one is dependent. Go. Talk with your neighbor. Don't do it by yourself. Talk. Which one depends on the other one? Think. Here we go. I just heard somebody say it. Here we go. The amount of hotel rooms depends on what? The amount of students. Because the students are going to sign up, and however many, listen, I coach basketball, right? I coach basketball, I coach softball. If we take an overnight trip, which we're not this year, okay, but just think about it. If I'm booking hotel rooms, the first thing I'm going to say is, okay, how many kids are going? Right? And how many people can I put in each room? Okay. Well, if I'm going to put 4 kids in each room, now I can start narrowing down how many rooms I'm going to have to get. So I need to know who's going before what? Before I book the rooms. I don't want to book the rooms and then decide, and then I've got too many rooms or not enough rooms. Okay, that's the way that works. So here's how this works. So the independent is the students, number of students, and the number of rooms, right? The more students, the what? More rooms. That's the way it goes. Everybody good? All right, number 3, go. On a road trip to Disney World, Billy asked, are we there yet? Okay, don't do that. Okay. His father answers, the amount of time we have left to travel is based on the amount of time that we have already traveled. Okay, now, first of all, that's just a weird answer for a dad to give. Well, it depends on how long we've already traveled. Okay, the amount of time that we have left to travel is based on the amount of time we have already traveled. Okay, so that's what we're talking about. We're talking about times. You guys with me? Talk to your neighbor. Go. Which one depends on the other one?
think the dependent is the time. I think the dependent is the time that we've already taken.
Now, talk to each other like this. This depends on that, and make sure that it makes sense.
The amount of time that we've already traveled depends on the time we've already.
I hear people changing their answers, right? When you look at it from that point of view, if you put the word depends on in the middle, it changes your view, doesn't it? Just a little bit. This depends on that. My weight depends on how many beaver nuggets I eat. Those are so good. What are beaver nuggets, by the way? Nobody knows. I know what they are, but what are they? What kind of food? Like, how would you classify a beaver? Okay, anyway. All right, so what is it? Which one depends on the other one? Time what? The amount of time left depends on what? Time traveled. The amount of time that's left depends on how much time has actually been traveled so far. Think about it. If I have traveled, I like to drive to Colorado. I love going to Colorado. I lived in Oklahoma City for a while. So from Oklahoma City to Denver, it was 10 hours. Okay. So if I've driven 8 hours, how much time is left? 2. The amount of time left depends on how long I've traveled already. Make sense? Not the other way around. So here's how this works. Time left is here. Depends on the time traveled. How would this graph look? Anybody know? Anybody have an idea? If I haven't traveled yet, do I have more or less time left? More time left. So that'd be like right here, right? If I've traveled a long time, how much time is going to be left? Not much. So wouldn't my graph look like this? There we go. See how that works? The more I travel, the less time I have left. It's negative correlation. Makes sense because you're subtracting the time you got left. You ever hear that? How much? Oh, I'm tired of driving. How much time I got left? Like, we're just going to Walmart. Relax. We're just going down the road. All right, here we go. Mrs. Carter begins baking brownies for Cookie Club at the last minute. The number of brownies that Mrs. Carter can bake is determined by how many sticks of butter are in her fridge. What are the two things we're talking about? Butter and what? The amount. The fridge. Okay, no, we're talking about the number of brownies. Okay, we're talking about butter and we're talking about brownies. Yes? Which one depends on the other one? Go, talk to your neighbor. Hold on. What is your goal, guys? What is your goal? What are you trying to do? You're trying to make brownies. That's your output. What does the number of brownies depend on? How much butter you have. The brownies depend on how much butter. Right? Because if I don't have very much butter, I'm not going to be able to do what? Make brownies. Make sense? One depends on the other. Okay, so here we go. My brownies, number of brownies, depends on amount of butter. Okay, so here's how this works. So the butter is here. Oh, no. Sorry. Butter is at the bottom because butter is the independent. Butter, brownies. So the more butter I have, the what? So what's that? Is that positive or negative? Positive. You just said it. More butter, more brownies. Goes up. More and more. Positive. Okay. Last one. Let's talk about it, and then we're going to do our little thing, and we'll take a break after that. Okay, here we go. Mr. Carter is creating a schedule for parent-teacher conferences. The length of each conference will be based on a number of parents who request a conference. Okay. The last part of it, the length of each conference, the length of the conference will be based on the number of parents who request a conference. Because if I only have one parent show up, that means can I have a longer conference? But if I have 30 people outside waiting for me, what do I need to do? Talk to your neighbor. Go. Coffee. Happy juice. All right, what do we think, guys? Which one depends on the other one? Don't be. First of all, don't forget this is the first day. I know this is the first day of our lectures. Don't be scared to be wrong. Do not be scared to be wrong in here because people, give it a shot. You never know. You might be right. What do you think? What do you got? The what? The amount of each conference. Okay, so that's the way I would list it. That's exactly right. The time depends on how many people. Yes? So here we go. The time, number of people. Because which one influences the other one? The number of people showing up influences the time, doesn't it? When you go to Buc-ee's, the cup you choose influences the price. Okay, one influences the other. Okay, so here we go. The people here and the time. All right, so would that be a positive or a negative? Why negative? Right. So the less number of people means you could have what? A longer meeting. Okay, so if we don't have very many people at all, we can have a long meeting, can't we? But if we have a lot of people, it's a short meeting, which means it's probably going to be like that. Everybody good? All right. Without looking at your notes, describe to me independent. Independent, go. It doesn't depend on something else. Give me another definition of independent. Yep, Hope.
Independent is like it doesn't need something to depend on.
Okay, well, that's kind of what he said. But can you change what? That's all right. So, give me an example that I didn't give.
An example, like
It could be anything. It could be food. Could be. Anybody have an example? What do you got, Noah? Okay. Okay. Who's got an example of independent, dependent? Which one? Something that depends on something else. Go ahead. It doesn't matter. Give me an example of independent and dependent. Okay. Okay. How about studying? The more you study, what do you think? The better grades you get. Okay. Independent, dependent. Everybody good? All right. So let me pause this real quick and